NewsTalk 730 AM and 95.3 FM welcomes you to D&D's Meet the Candidates Hour, a full hour of interviewing a candidate running for local office, learning what he or she is all about and what they have to offer if elected.
In the early 90s, it was much different than it is today. There were really no teaching positions. And so when I did get my degree, there were no positions to be had. But we had a bumper crop year of kindergarten kids that came into Park Elementary. And so 2 weeks after school started, there was a position that became available.
What year was that?
That was in 93.
93.
That was in 93. I wish we had that problem here today, but it's not quite the same. So I did teach there at Park Elementary and became the reading coach there, went back to school and got my master's degree in educational leadership. And upon completion of that, had the opportunity to go down to Lake Placid Elementary with Miss Carol Disler and served under her as her assistant principal for 3 years. Mr. Cox invited me back to Park Elementary as the assistant principal, and then I took the principal position there for a number of years. After that time period, Mr. Cox had reached out for me to join him at the district office as the assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction. And that time, being able to serve under him and learn from his leadership was really very profitable for me. And when he retired, then I ran for election in 2016, and I've been your superintendent for the past 8 years. So 31 years in education here in Highlands County. I love this work and very committed to the kids and the families here in our community.
Sure, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of changes over the years.
Wow.
For sure. Yeah,
yes, sir.
Absolutely.
Yes, sir. We certainly have.
Yeah, so as we dive into this, we've done a couple of candidate interviews with school board members, and now you're the first and the sitting superintendent. So why don't you, for the listening audience, tell them what you feel the superintendent's role and responsibilities are, kind of outlining that workload that you deal with on a daily basis.
Well, the superintendent's role is really just the inner running of the school system. We're allocating every school for their positions, for their teaching positions, their entire staff position, and just the day-to-day operations of the school really is the responsibility of the superintendent. I do manage the budget, which is enormous, $248 million.
Right.
And all of the curriculum instruction, I oversee all of the departments, HR, safety and security, MIS, all of those departments. But the main work of a superintendent for me has really been being in the schools. I'm in the schools doing the day-to-day work, pouring into the principals, to our leaders, to our district staff to move our student achievement and empower student success here in Highlands County.
Okay.
And of course, we're talking with current superintendent of schools, Dr. Brenda Longshore. She's been there for 8 years or so. I did get one real quick question, which was related back to your bio. When was it that you were the assistant superintendent?
At Park or down
I guess,
at...
superintendent of school.
Superintendent.
Yeah.
I came in...
Wally.
In Wally. I came in July of 13.
July of 13. Okay, so just about 11 years or so from now almost. Very good. Excellent. Okay, so I would think that in addition to what you learned on the way into becoming a superintendent, there's been a little bit of learning as you have been superintendent. When did you best feel that you've got a really good handle on the position, or is it still something that you're learning every day?
Well, I do think that it has been an interesting 8 years. When you think back, what has happened over the past 8 years, I think that it is paramount. And I do believe that there's no better teacher than experience. So as we think back over the course of the 8 years that I've served as superintendent, I think we have just met unprecedented challenges. I think back to 2017, and we had a horrific storm, Hurricane Irma, that came through our area. And through this, all of our school systems closed down. We turned to shelters. We were feeding the community. So learning through that catastrophe was certainly powerful in my leadership. The very next year, in 2018, we had the terrible massacre down at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas. And that changed everything in education. When you think about the safety and security and the mandates from the commission and the new statute and the legislation and all that has gone with that, that has been another level of learning that I think has been just incredible.
And it's really transformed the appearance of the schools, too, because of the new fencing and gates and security that goes with that. It's drastically changed the look of the schools.
It certainly has. I mean, even thinking about with our SROs and SRDs on all of our campuses, that didn't happen before. And then with all the fencing and the gates and the call systems and the single point of entries and the guard shacks and, it goes on and on and on.
Sure.
It's been a lot of transition. And then in 2020, we all know what happened then with the global pandemic. And
I heard about that.
You did hear about it? Well, it did shut our whole nation down, and it shut our school system down too. And so in just one little moment, we had to transition a brick and mortar face-to-face school of over 12,000 students to virtual learning.
Right.
And it came with a lot of anxiety, a lot of how do we do this? We've never done this before. But I will say with the great commitment of our teachers and staff and faculty and parents, we did make that transition. It was rocky, it was tough, but learning continued. And what we did find also, it was just as challenging to open up school when the governor said, we will open school, you will open now. That was quite a transition as well through quarantines and all that went with that. So I think that it has just been a process over the past 8 years that has equipped me well to the experiences that we have had and the results that we have obtained. I don't know that your learning ever stops. But I do believe that over the past 8 years, there's been a different type of learning that has taken place in the position of the superintendent.
Sure, no doubt at all. Of course, again, talking with Dr. Brenda Longshore, the election for superintendent is on August 20th officially. Early voting starts about 10 days before that, and the absentee ballots are going out next month. So there's an opportunity there. There are a total of 3 candidates for the position at this particular time, and Dr. Longshore, of course, the incumbent since 2016. We have a lot more questions for her as well as the Meet the Candidates series continues. D&D Live Meet the Candidates series continues here with Dan Andrews and myself, Don Elwell, and of course, Dr. Brenda Longshore. And Dan, you've got the next question for Dr. Longshore as our interview continues.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the relationship that the Highlands County School Board has with the state of Florida. Mm-hmm. And I think oftentimes people are confused and think that maybe the local school board has more control or more say than they do. So why don't you talk a little bit about that relationship and how you handle that?
Sure, I'll be glad to. So with our senators and our legislators, of course, they make the laws. And so as they go into session every year, we have lots of conversation with them about any upcoming topics that might be of concern for educators. So as a superintendent group, we work very carefully to create the different items that we want to bring forth with our legislators and be able to have conversation with them. And then once they make the decision on how those will work, the statutory language, then the Department of Education then creates rules to more define what that language is saying for us to be able to follow. I think it's incredibly important that we build strong relationships with our senators and our representatives. And I've had an opportunity to do that over the course of the past 8 years. In fact, I would often have them calling me on my cell phone saying, give me more information about this topic so I can help create language that is different. One of the things that I think has been very substantial for our district is with the half-cent sales tax. I'm so thankful for this community that supported that in the polls in 2016. But on our referendum then, they ran that campaign that we would be able to buy buses out of the half-cent sales tax.
Right. Yeah.
And it went all the way to Tallahassee. Everything was signed off. And so when I got into office, we had an audit. And the Auditor General said, no, you cannot buy buses with the half-cent sales tax. Well, we pulled out all of that information because there was great documentation. And I know we went out to the public saying, yes, this is what we're going to use this money for. And it was the decision from the Auditor General that we could not. And so I reached out to legal counsel through the superintendent's organization, and their advice was try to get the senators and representatives to change the language. Well, that was a new journey for me. I'd never done that before, but I did lean into other superintendents that had done that work and began to work with Senator Albritton, and Miss Howerton actually joined me in some of that work. And then I had another superintendent from Okaloosa that reached out and said that he was about to buy buses with a half-cent sales tax. And I said, oh, don't do that. You don't want to make that mistake. Yeah. But his senator was very providential in helping us get that language through. So we met with Senator Broxson and with Senator Albritton, and they did make that change in the language, which was a huge win for us. So now we are back able to buy buses with that half-cent sales tax. So I'm just here to say you can make a difference if you have those relationships with those folks that are in those seats that are actually creating that language.
Now, how do you find a balance in working with the legislators and working with your Superintendents Association between rural communities like ourselves and the larger urban communities that the state of Florida has a lot of?
Well, I do think we have a voice at the table. I know when I was in Tallahassee a couple of years ago, the First Lady actually asked the superintendents from the small rural districts to do a roundtable with her. And so we were able to sit with her and explain some of the challenges that we're going through in Highlands County and why it isn't the same in all places. Mm-hmm. And she really leaned into that conversation and really was interested in that conversation. We also have an organization that pulls all of the small districts together, and they have lobbyists, and they do a lot of good work. In fact, I think Ms. Howerton's going to be serving on that committee. Ms. Jan Shoup had been on that, and now that she's going to be retiring out of her position, I know they appointed her at last month's conference that she was going to be serving on that. So I think it's just important to have a voice at the table. I do think we've got lots of small districts that want to pull together, and it is different for us.
Sure.
It is definitely different for us. And so I'm just thankful that you can build those relationships with folks. They're eager to hear from you. That's what I have found. They're always very receptive. They're eager to listen, and they want to do what's right for kids in Highlands County.
Well, and I think, I think we're very fortunate in that whole school bus thing, because I remember when I first heard about that, I was like, that was on all the signs,
right?
all the flyers
sure.
had a picture of a stinking school bus.
Sure.
And so you'd have thought somebody would have checked on that.
Well, it was approved all the way to Tallahassee. It was approved that was appropriate.
And then the Attorney General,
the Auditor General said, no,
that's
in
crazy.
Fact, it's not. Yes.
Yeah, that's nuts.
But thank goodness we got it changed.
Absolutely. Now we're good to go. But if you were reelected, can you think of, and I'm sure you can, what would be your top 1, 2, or 3 priorities that you would have in the office, so that you would say, okay, over the next term, I want to address this, and this, or even if it's just 1 or 2,
sure.
What would they be?
So I think we have done a ton of work with our vocational programs, and I want to keep pushing that envelope. We have over 50% of our students that do not go to college. And I think we're doing a very good job preparing.
50% do not.
Do not go to college. Okay. Do not go to college.
Yeah.
And so, if not college, what?
Right.
And so it's been very important to me to begin to really accelerate our vocational programs. And we have built some great partnerships, and we are seeing an enormous increase of students taking vocational programs. In fact, over the course of my serving as superintendent in more recent years, we have received $500,000 in funding actually for our Sebring High School welding base. We're going to have 15 welding bays there. We have also received over $700,000 to help fund all the robotics and technical ag operations, and over $850,000 with a partnership with the college. Again, the relationships with different individuals, a partnership with the college to expand our workforce opportunities with a focus on medical science, and with education academies at all 3 high schools. And so with those medical science, they're doing CNA work right there at all 3 high schools that we can feed right into the college nursing program. We know we need teachers, and so we've got the pathway for students to start taking those prerequisite courses to go right to the college then to get their elementary ed degree. We are preparing students for the workforce and making tremendous strides in keeping kids in school. We currently have over 4,000 students enrolled in over 35 courses with over 25 plus certifications offered. So we're just making great strides there. We actually earned this past year 900 certifications, and that's a 50% increase over the past 3 years. So it's the right thing to do for our kids. I would love to see us move to the place that we could have a vocational high school. I had an opportunity with Senator Grahl to go visit a school in Pasco County, and they are a vocational school. And what they have doing there are businesses are partnering with them. They're providing the buses or the semis for them to work on, and they're also going to them saying, we will give you a job as soon as you graduate.
Right.
And you'll make $80,000 a year. So, I mean, it was just an incredible opportunity to see what could happen, and I would love to see that happen here in Highlands County. So, moving forward, that would be a major push for me.
That's the number one is the vocational schools and increasing the vocational options.
Sure,
okay.
sure.
So on the vocational front, it seems like there was a gap of like 20 years from like the late 80s, early 90s to the 2020, where we didn't seem to put a whole lot of emphasis on anything other than you have to go to college.
Right.
And when you're teaching to 50% of the student base that's not going to go to college, I just commend you all on the vocational education steps you're making and the strides that you're making to help those folks. Because I remember growing up, I mean, we had shop class, we had all of these resources that seemed to have fallen by the wayside in the 90s and into the early 2000s. And now with this vocational education, it's really given them an opportunity that wasn't there before.
It's really exciting, and not only are they engaging in the opportunities, but we're finding that they are attending more because they might hate their English 3 class, but they'll go to be in their welding class. Right. And all of those things are positive movement for our kids to get what they need while they're with us in school.
Sure.
Yeah.
Excellent. Very good. Of course, we're talking with Dr. Brenda Longshore, Superintendent of Schools and running for re-election. Again, that election is coming up in, absentee ballots come out next month. Early voting starts again on August 10th, and August 20th is the election day. But we got a whole bunch more questions, including a few questions that have come in from the listeners here. And again, if you've got any questions, you may certainly text them in to myself at 863-381-5622. Again, that's 381-5622 for questions and or pizza orders, any of those things you may do as we continue with Dr. Brenda Longshore here in just a minute. Don Elwell and Dan Andrews, D&D Live's Meet the Candidates series. And, of course, we're talking with Dr. Brenda Longshore, Superintendent of Schools. And we've got some listener questions, Dr. Longshore. Here comes one of them right now. How many current teacher vacancies do we have in Highlands County? And have you continued to see that number going up or down? And, of course, obviously, what is your theory as to why we continue to see such a big number?
Okay, well, I was expecting that we might talk about that, so I did pull some numbers for us today.
Nice, very good. So
at the end of 23-24, we had 47 vacancies.
Gotcha.
And 36 long-term subs. In 22-23, we had 85 vacancies and 47 long-term subs. So we're making some pretty significant differences and filling those vacancies, going from 85 to 47.
Sure.
And then 47 to 36. And so what I have been able to do to really tackle this is we've got the Grow Your Own program going on at all 3 high schools, where we are trying to develop those students that might want to go into the education career pathway. Now, that's not going to help our problem for tomorrow, but it is a long-term helping with that. We've also started some things with dual enrollment coursework for our students. So for the student opportunities, we have some things in place there. We're also educating our seniors on opportunities to work within our school district. I allocated funds for a district recruiter. And that gentleman has done a great job really getting out to other places to encourage folks to come to Highlands, or even within our own community, encouraging folks to go into the education profession. They've gone to out-of-state recruiting events. We're taking letters of intent as we go. And so right there on the spot, they're talking with administrators on what their needs are and able to do that. We are partnering with the college to host interns within our school system. And something that we started a few years ago that has really served us very well is we are hiring some international teachers. It is a TPG cultural exchange, and these teachers come over. They all have master's degrees. They're here on a 3 or 5 year visa. And we currently have 31 international teachers serving in this county. They're doing an extraordinary job. Now, it's different in their country than it is here. And I think some of the greatest challenges that they're facing is probably the respect in the classroom and even with the community in regards to teachers. But they are working through that. They are experts in their content area, and that's going very well. We also have employee referral bonuses, so for teacher recruitment. So if they find someone that wants to come here, we're trying to, work on that as well. So
it's like a little bird dog feed. That's kind of cool. But my follow-up on that is one of the things that you mentioned as far as the grow your own type thing is are we doing, I guess, exit interviews for those teachers that are leaving to find out, okay, why are they leaving? Is there some sort of systemic problem? Is it more just along the lines of family moving, that type of thing? Are we conducting those interviews, and are we finding anything out there that are trends that we need to kind of address?
And do we know, are they retirement? What percentage are retirees versus leaving for other reasons?
Well, they do the exit interviews, and they are also doing at the school level some fireside chats, on what's going on and those types of things. I don't know those percentages as far as how many are actually retiring or how many are resigning. I know there is a vast reason of why people are making the decision to leave. Some are leaving the community, some are leaving the state. In the education field, you've got a lot of younger women, and some are deciding to stay home to have children or to be with their children. So there's a variety of reasons that when they do have those exit interviews with HR, that they're getting back. So it doesn't seem to be like, it's this, and let's tackle that. That's not what we have seemed to find.
And you're saying that there's, and I apologize, you mentioned like there's 60 some odd vacancies or 40 some odd, because I'm seeing some people saying that at the last board meeting that they noted that there's like 95 vacancies with 11 pending, but you're saying there's like 47? I think
47 vacancies and 36 long-term subs.
And that is district-wide. And the 36 long-term subs, those are not counted in those? So
those are filling positions.
Those are so without the subs, we'd have 83.
That's correct.
I got you.
And that's at the end of the 23-24 school year.
Okay. Very good.
Okay. So let's talk about a topic of conversation that seems to come up all the time, and that is pay for teachers and teacher salaries. And it seems as though Highlands County has made some strides on the entry-level positions, or when they're starting salaries. But what are we doing to adjust those with tenure? Where is what I'm kind of hearing from the general public is some of the concerns. So where are we with that?
So it is a challenge. There's no doubt about that. We have raised beginning teacher salary since I came into office 8 years ago. We've raised beginning teacher salary by $12,000. We've increased...
Which is a huge jump.
It is a huge jump, and some of that has been on the direction of the governor. And so we're very thankful for him. Governor DeSantis has certainly helped us in that area. For our median teacher salary, we have increased that salary by $7,500 over my course of time being a superintendent. So what happened with the direction of the governor was that the funds were sent to the districts, but they had to get to a certain number.
Okay.
And until you got to that certain number, you were not able to use those dollars on anybody else but beginning teacher salaries. So what happened is our veteran salaries become compressed. And so for the past 2 years, what we have been trying to do is put a different percentage in for the teachers that have been with us a longer period of time, so that there would be some acceleration in some of those areas and there would be a higher percentage. So we're working hard to be able to move that needle, because if you've been working 15 years and you've got a brand new teacher that you're mentoring and you're making $2,000 more than they are, nobody feels good about that. Right. I also think that the $15 an hour minimum wage was a challenge for us. We had to take that in 1 year. It wasn't that you could inch into that as other industries were able to. So that was a big swath as well. But we have hit that magic number. And so now we're at a place, and I've heard recently that the governor is going to be sending us more monies for teachers. And so we hope to continue to build that. We know that our teachers and our staff are our highest commodity, and we want to be able to serve them well and to compensate them well.
Well, in going towards that a little bit, as you know, of course, the 22-23 district grades came out, and I was looking at them a little bit last night, and I saw, you got about 25% of all the school districts in Florida received, I guess, an A grade, from what I hear. And then there's about half of them or so that received a B grade, a little over half. So I think it's 83% are in the A or B category. And then, of course, Highlands is down in the C category, which, 1 out of every 6, I think, roughly, schools are in there. And I think we're down in like the, I want to say about the 10 percentile, I guess is the best way to put it. Maybe 60 out of 60. Yeah, somewhere in that range there. Yeah. And what would be your, I guess, reason for that you can think of, if you can come up with a couple of different reasons? And then obviously, how would you address that going forward and if you were reelected in your next term?
So it's interesting when you start looking at grades, because I think many people feel like, the student takes a math test and a science test and a social studies test, and they line all those scores up and then they apply a grade to it. That's not really how the grades are calculated. There's many components of a school grade. So for English language arts, you have 3 areas that you would receive points in, or percentages. If they're on grade level, if they have made a year's worth of learning gains, if they're in the lowest quartile and made a year's worth of learning gains. That same method is used in math. And then we have a science score, a social studies score. We also have a score for acceleration in middle school. So if for every student that's in middle school, the intention of the state would be that they're taking an accelerated high school course. And you get a point for that if they do. You don't if they don't. So if they're taking an 8th grade math course, that's really would not be the desire of the state. The state's saying you should be taking an algebra course when you're in 8th grade. The same acceleration happens at the high school level, that they would be taking a college course. So all of those components are pulled together to create the school grade, in addition to graduation rate. So that's thrown in there just for good favor. So there's lots of pieces to that. Also, I think we have to look at our socioeconomic level and where we are with that. I think if you did the ranking for that, poverty in Highlands County, we'd be 50 out of 67. So oftentimes that will line up as a pretty true match. Some of the work that we have done in the past couple of years, we have been working intently with the Bureau of School Improvement. And what we have seen from that growth has truly been incredible. They have been coming into our district, working with our school leaders, working in the schools themselves. And what we have determined is from our newest grades that we have just received information about just a couple of weeks ago, we have a higher positive rate of increase than the state average in 15 out of those 21 areas. a higher positive rate of increase
So means we're catching
than the
up.
state. So we are catching up.
Catching up.
Actually, over 50% of the districts, more than 50% of the districts. So I'm very excited to see this raw data. I cannot wait until we get our school grades. However, the state DOE, they set the cut scores. And so they make a decision on this will be the cut score for A's, this will be the cut score for B's, this will be the cut scores for C's. And so in their next board meeting, they're going to make the decision on this will be the cut score for A's and this will be the cut score for B's. I can just tell you we have made incredible growth in many, many areas because of the work that we have been doing intently with the Bureau of School Improvement in our schools, and we are moving the needle in massive ways. So I'm very excited about the work that has been happening there. In fact, they have come to our district and asked us to present at the state academies this year because of the growth that we have made in Highlands County. I think another thing that we have to realize and recognize is we have no underperforming schools in Highlands County. And ranking does not depict performance. Ranking, you could have the same rank, but you'll be ranked first, second, third. So it could be very different than, really what performance means. I'm never going to chase numbers and percentages. I'm going to look at every individual child and what are we going to do for that individual child to increase their student growth, empowering each student's success.
Very good.
Okay, so one question we've been getting from various folks, and I think a little awkward to ask the sitting superintendent, but we did ask the school board members,
Okay.
and we're going to ask each of you also is, what is your opinion? Your role. Some of us see it more as a CEO style role, managing a very large budget, the largest in the county. So what's your opinion as it's related to an elected versus an appointed superintendent? I know 21 or 22 of the districts have an appointed, a hired superintendent, and then the balance have an elected. So what are your thoughts in that regard, and are you going to talk yourself out of the job?
Well, I think there's a ditch on both sides of that, honestly, to be truthful with you. But I will always land on an elected superintendent because I just don't want to take the power away from the voters. I feel like if I were not the superintendent, and even if I were not in education, I would want to have a voice in that. What I have also seen over my past 8 years of serving as superintendent is the elected superintendents change like you change your clothes. So to have some sustenance in leadership where you have this building upon, like we talked about earlier, with relationships, developing systems, putting those things in place, I think longevity matters. I think experience matters.
So, but you mean appointed change?
Appointed changes.
Okay, you said elected.
Thank you for clearing that up for me.
So what your experience has shown that those appointed come and go.
Left and right.
But the elected seem to have more sustainability
They do.
and more longevity in the role.
Yes, they do.
Okay.
They do.
Very good. All right. I didn't notice that, but that's very good.
First-hand knowledge, right?
Exactly. And again, of course, talking with Dr. Brenda Longshore, it is the Meet the Candidates series on D&D Live. And yes, we have got quite a few more questions to go, including a couple lighter ones that all the candidates seem to enjoy after all these heavy ones, too. We'll cover all of that, too, in just a minute or two. Don Elwell, Dan Andrews, D&D Live's Meet the Candidates series here with Dr. Brenda Longshore, Superintendent of Schools, and candidate for re-election in, 2 months from today, right? Today's the 20th. Yeah, it is. 2 months from today.
Oh, my goodness.
It's coming up real quick. Yeah, that just,
it is.
I just sent a shiver down her spine right there. Yeah, I think so. So in any case, of course, we've got all kinds of different questions that have come in from listeners and such. And I know one of the big ones we've talked about, obviously, was the need for teachers. And we know that there's certainly things that are happening there. You said we have a recruiter now that is recruiting. And is that an outside position or is that a local position?
No, it is a local position. And actually, that gentleman has just taken the principal position at Sun and Lakes Elementary, and so we will still have that position available for sure.
So we're recruiting a recruiter?
We're recruiting a recruiter. We're recruiting a recruiter, but he has certainly put many systems in place that we will be able to continue the work for sure.
Okay.
a great person that has really pulled a lot of folks in. Well, clearly by the numbers that we're looking at, moving from 85 to 47, that's pretty big.
Okay.
All right, we touched on school rankings a little earlier, but something you said triggered something with me, and I'd like to get your thoughts on that. But it doesn't seem like we have too many underperforming schools.
Right. That is correct.
We're looking at an average, but it doesn't seem like. Do we have any F-rated schools?
No, we don't actually. When I first went to the district office with Mr. Cox, when I came into the position as assistant superintendent of curriculum and instruction, we had one F school and we had 5 D schools. Okay. We currently have 4 B schools and 14 C schools. And again, our new state data is showing a higher positive rate of increase than the state in 15 out of 21 areas. Another thing that I think has been quite impressive is our graduation rate since I came down to the district office has increased by 18% under my leadership, moving from 61.8% to 80.2%. So I do think we are making some great strides. I also think that we've just got some systems in place that we know how to tackle improving student achievement by ensuring that we are aligning our instruction to the standards in which they're going to be assessed on, and we're asking our students to have aligned tasks that what we're asking the student to do is aligned to our standards as well to prepare them adequately to do well on these assessments.
Okay. Brenda, one of the things I know that is extremely important is, of course, the school board, the 5-member school board. They really don't have a whole heck of a lot to do with the curriculum at all, correct?
They approve the curriculum.
Okay.
We do all the work of finding the curriculum, going off of the state curriculum list, vetting it, having different folks come to committees with that, and then we take that recommendation. The curriculum department takes that recommendation to the board for their approval of the curriculum. But getting in the weeds and making the decisions about which curriculum and all of those things, that's done more at the school and district office
More
level.
of an operational
it is.
kind of thing. Okay.
Yes, it is.
And how would you then describe your relationship with the school board members and your communication with them day in, day out, or is it week in, week out? How would you best describe how that actually happens?
I think it's really important to form strong relationships with your board members because they are out in the community, and we need to make sure that we're giving them answers to the questions that they are being asked. And so there is an open door policy. In fact, I spoke with one board member just this morning on some things that they were wanting to move forward with a board workshop. And so I do believe it's very important that the questions that they have, the questions that they're asked, they need to be able to get answers from those. And so they certainly come to me. They come to my district staff as well to be able to sit down with them and better understand what the challenges are and why things are like they are. I do say that the board members are eager to learn. Many of them didn't come from education, so they really don't have that background, but they want to learn so that they'll be able to serve our community well.
So in regards to that curriculum, one of the questions that I was wondering about was, can the board take a look at the curriculum and maybe they have thoughts that, gosh, I don't think we should be teaching 3rd graders this or 5th graders this. I think it should be taught more in 6th or 8th grade. Can they refuse to approve the curriculum either in part or in whole?
They can refuse to approve the curriculum. I think that we just have to look at what are the standards saying that we will teach in 3rd and 6th grade, because we're obligated to do that.
Sure.
But certainly they can make the decision that, no, I don't want that curriculum in our schools, or I do want that curriculum in our schools.
Yeah, and let's be fair. What we're talking about is what happened with sex education and the dust-up that happened about 2 years ago, I think it was, over that curriculum. So maybe you can touch on a little bit about how that curriculum got approved, and then what you've implemented now to prevent that from happening again.
I would love to be able to speak to that because there are a lot of things that I think have been communicated that are not accurate. We actually started working with the Heartland Rural Health Network and IMAD was a part of that program back in 2006. So it had been a long time that we were working with that agency. In 2010, the IMAD program began providing instruction in our middle schools. And in 2016, there was new curriculum that was brought forward. There was a committee of staff, parents, and community that formally reviewed that curriculum. That curriculum then went to the DSAC committee, that's our district advisory committee, and a memo of understanding was approved by our board at that time. Prior to the curriculum being taught at the school campuses, parent letters were distributed to students to take home for opt-out forms. So if parents said, no thank you, I don't want to do that, that happened. Informational calls went out to parents to inform them that this was going to be taught. And information was shared also through social media. Parent meetings were also held at all 4 middle schools so that they could come in, meet, look at the curriculum. Those things happened in 2016. In 2022, in February, some of my staff and myself met with a group of individuals with curriculum concerns. A different curriculum was suggested to me at that time to possibly use. And in March of 2022, I was made aware of some content that had been added and shared in instruction that had been added to the curriculum. As soon as I recognized that those slides had been added in, there were 4 or 5 slides, it's a 5-hour instruction, that I immediately called IMAD and ended the contract.
So those slides weren't in the pre-approved
They
curriculum.
were not.
They were added
They
after.
were not.
Okay.
They were not. And so after that time, a health education curriculum committee was formed, and then we went through a whole process with that committee. Now, that committee had made a recommendation to the board about another curriculum. And at that time, the board said, let's pause. We want to see the curriculum. And they did. And so we did workshops where they saw the curriculum and actually made a different choice of a very good curriculum.
Great. Thank you.
So you terminated the contract, or it just expired?
No, I terminated it.
Okay, I got you.
I terminated
Very good.
it immediately.
Okay, very good. All right, so what we try to do at the end of the hour, as much as we possibly can, and I can't believe this hour's gone that fast. It is zipped by. Maybe not for you, but for us it has anyway. Is to say, okay, election day again, 2 months from today, as we talked about. So if you would tell the voters of Highlands County why, with 3 candidates for Superintendent of Schools, why they should vote for Brenda Longshore.
Well, thank you for the question. I do believe, like much that we've talked about today, that experience matters and results matter. And over the course of the past 8 years, we pretty clearly depicted the challenges that we have faced successfully and continued great education for the kids in this community. And I also think that proven results and ethical leadership matter. Again, as I spoke about before, when I came to the district office, we had 1 F and 5 D schools. Today, we're sitting with 4 Bs and the rest C schools, with outperforming the state with our newest data. I think that running a budget of $248 million, I'm the only candidate that has managed that. I'm the only candidate that have employed over 1,700 staff. I'm the only candidate that has served over 12,000 students. So back again, I just feel like character matters when you're entrusted with over 12,000 students and over 1,700 staff. And I do believe that being an honest, ethical superintendent makes a difference. So vote for me. And what did you say? Just a few weeks, August 20th.
I know, it's coming.
Vote for Longshore. Vote for Longshore.
There you go. Very good. So we got a couple lighter questions that we usually ask towards the end, if there's time, and sometimes there's not because we get too gabby. But in this case, we haven't been too gabby. So in Highlands County, you've been a resident of Highlands County for how many years?
My entire life.
Your entire life.
She's not going to disclose her age, Dawn.
Yeah,
goodness,
so
Dawn.
29 years.
29 years.
Exactly. Okay, very good. And so let's talk a little bit about, where's favorite places to eat besides your kitchen? Where's like your favorite restaurants?
Longshore's Lake House is pretty good, I will have to say.
I'm sure it is, but it's not open to the public. We can't go there.
But it's not. It's not. I would probably throw my hat into Cowpokes.
Watering hole. Okay.
Yep.
All right, so that's the go-to. Is any other places?
Oh, I'll hit them all. I'm not choosy. If they're serving, I'm pretty much coming in.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, that's all right. You got another. Go ahead. Your turn.
What do I have?
I don't know if you had another question. I figured you had another question or two.
Well, I did have a question, but I had a statement, and that is, I just want to publicly thank you. 2020, my son graduated from Sebring High School,
Yes.
and he was going to miss graduation because he was going to Air Force Academy to boot camp.
Right.
And Dr. Longshore and the Sebring principal came to one of our church services and surprised him and presented him with his diploma. So,
oh, nice.
So that was a pretty amazing experience, and getting goosebumps just thinking about it now. But
super.
Thank you for that.
Yes.
And
my pleasure.
So again, Brenda Longshore, of course. Again, early voting starts on about the 10th or so of August. Election day on August 20th, and obviously, if you're doing a vote by mail or absentee ballot, those are going out next month. So we certainly encourage you to make sure that no matter who you vote for, vote informed and make sure that you vote. It is going to be very, very important, especially at a local level for this August election in particular. Again, D&D Live Meet the Candidates series. Thank you, Dr. Longshore, for being here. We certainly do appreciate you being here. Next week, we will continue the series a little bit as we have Donald Ridgway, another candidate for superintendent, will be here as well, and there's a third candidate as well, and he'll be here later on down the line. So it's going to be a very active Meet the Candidates series, and we'll hopefully give you some good information as we get ready for the season, if you will, of election season as it gets into full bore. You're starting to see those signs out there right now, but it should be a lot of fun. So we certainly, I know are you putting up signs, or is it Eric having to do that?
Well, I think that Mr. Longshore is taking care of that for me.
Wow.
I'm very thankful for him.
Yeah, I'm sure that you are. And I'm sure he's enjoying the fact that it's an August election.
He certainly is.
Yeah, I'm sure he's heard a little bit about that too. So again, thank you very much for listening to the Meet the Candidates series, D&D Live. And don't forget, of course, D&D Live, our regular show. We'll get some feedback on this too, coming up very, very soon when we get back tomorrow morning.